Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of day you're listening to this. Appreciate you as always. My name is Augusta Foster. Welcome to another installment of the Mantalk Monday podcast. Today, man, we're talking about discipline. What about discipline? The reality that, in all reality, discipline isn't a bad thing. So, of course, if this is your first time checking out the pod, again, my name is Augusta Foster. I'm an author, mental health advocate, coach, man of faith, believer, and perhaps the most important title out of all those is father. Uh, I've taken on roles of fatherhood. I've been a natural birth dad. I've been a stepdad, an adopted dad, a long distance dad, a divorced dad. I've ran the gamut. So my ability to connect with men and speak with them, coach them, and provide guidance. I've been blessed to have a lot of very interesting experiences that give me ability to see through the lens of how a lot of men are navigating this road of fatherhood. So I started this podcast a couple of years ago, and as I quite often say, it's very cathartic for me to be able to put this out and have people listen, reach out and support, and just thank me and tell me how grateful they are that there's somebody who is giving them a little bit of tools for the toolbox. So welcome into the pod, man. And again, today we're talking about discipline. And the reason we're talking about discipline is like a lot of other things that we view as not just fathers, not just men, but as people, as human beings in general. We have this odd association with certain things that come naturally or should be implemented. But we have like an averse or a bad reaction, like a nasty taste in our mouth. Think about it right now. I just said this episode is about discipline. Some of you immediately went to a bad place. You went to a spot that you haven't thought of in years. Because when we think of discipline, we assume punishment. Like that's just the game. That's what it is. When you were growing up as a kid, most of the time, if you were blessed to have both parents in the house, like my sister and I did, dad did the discipline. You know, you kind of want that quote unquote traditional balance between the two, where mom gives the leeway, dad gives the discipline. No, both my parents were disciplinarians. They both were, you know, gave us love and affirmations in different ways, in their own particular ways, but the discipline was consistent. However, it wasn't always physical. Sometimes it was verbal, other times it was take this, lose this. But discipline was discipline. And for some people, we only view it as that. You get disciplined because something went wrong. You get disciplined because something was done incorrectly. You get disciplined because that was the outcome as a result of an action you weren't supposed to do. When in all reality, discipline is coaching, discipline is mentoring, discipline is discipleship, discipline is correction, discipline helps develop resilience. But that's not the way we view it. And today we're going to kind of explore how discipline goes hand in hand with who we should be as fathers and as leaders in our homes and in our communities, and explore not just that, but how, in the end, discipline will allow you to set standards that'll set your kids up for the long term. So, in getting into this, ask yourself, specifically any fathers who your kids are younger, stepdads, adopted dads, whatever, fathers, dads, baby daddy, whoever you are, as I always say, remix father, whatever role you're in, as you serve in that capacity, think about how you handle your kids like wilding out, flipping, tantrums, them crying. How do you handle that? Then think on the other side, not as extreme, not the tantrum, not the loud, not the noise, not the flipping out, the things that we all see certain kids do in public. Because discipline doesn't just go with your, again, discipline doesn't just go to you've done this action. Now I respond this way. Because there are some parents who correct that in public. My mother was one of those people. I'll never forget getting hit in the head at a Clipper game when I was about 11 years old. Leaving a Clipper game, I was wilding out, thinking I could be smart at the mouth. And my mother, like, pelted me in front of hundreds of people. And one of the people there, funny though, was comedian Anthony Anderson, diehard Clipper fan. And my mother hit me, and I remember Anthony Anderson looking over and saying, "See, you knew you wasn't supposed to do that. No help, no assistance. Just now you knew better." And he was right. Now that's one side of it. That's how you discipline those things as an action. But as fathers, how do you handle discipline with setbacks? How do you help your children develop that resiliency? I think because we view discipline through that negative lens, we often even like we skip over the fact that even like the Bible, like the book of Hebrews, there's a verse in Hebrews, I think in 12, where it talks about discipline and being pleasant at the time, like the back end, like it's worth it. Even how in the Bible, how it says the Lord chastises, or he gets on those who he loves, who he appreciates, who he cherishes. We kind of skip over those verses because we have this bad relationship with discipline. So we even skip over the fact that the Bible says, hey, listen, I'm chastising you. I'm being a little hard on you. I'm correcting this action in you. I'm doing these things in you. You're not going to appreciate it now. Like in Hebrews 12 and 11, it says discipline doesn't seem pleasant right now. At the time, it doesn't. Just wait on it. I often think of the amount of times where my parents would tell me no, given guardrails. I like talking about guardrails with kids, and they would tell me no. And over time, like now I'll be approaching 40 years old in in a couple of months. And I recognize all of their no's, all of their no's then were yeses for now. So when they told me, no, you can't do this, no, you can't associate with this person, no, you're not allowed to do this, you can't go here, those no's in that moment then have afforded me the opportunity where they are yeses now. So because I didn't do certain things, because I didn't hang with certain people, or at least I ain't hang with certain people and get caught. Like, I'm not gonna tell you, like God's grace is forever abided over my life. Because there were times where I knew who I was with. I should have been an issue. God saw over me. And now, because those no's and those moments, even those chances I took, I'm able to walk in the rooms now, and it's a yes. So I'm grateful for that. But that was the discipline. Those were the guardrails that I needed. I talk a lot about standards, and think about the ultimate standard, like the character of God. I think about the fact of how God disciplines those who He loves. Again, we have this bad relationship with the word discipline because we naturally, something in us, it naturally clicks as if when we hear discipline, it's related to an outcome that was created for something bad, when in all reality, discipline isn't that. Here's the thing, we think of discipline as you did something wrong, now you're going to get a whooping, but it's not. I had a great conversation with a buddy of mine a while ago. Popular, he's growing more popular. Had an account before, but besides the point, he's growing his platform again. And he's really in health, really in wellness, popular on social media, around all the right people. And I asked him one day, because I joke about him and I always say, his fitness and everything. I said, man, we needed you to be in this shape when we were playing football in high school. But I tell him, bro, the food you eat, my brother in Christ, you eat like an expensive pit bull. Like I look at his meals and I'm like, it's so boring, bro. So, man, what do you eat, man? And I jokingly told him once, bro, I like cheesecake. I can achieve your physique. And he corrected me. He said, no, you could achieve this. You just like discipline. So what do you mean? I said, bro, you're eating boring. He said, no, it's not that I'm eating boring. What I'm eating is what's required to get the results that I need. That's where the discipline is. It's like you lack the discipline to want to get here. You don't want six pack abs. You don't want this back. You don't want these traps, lats, all the muscles. He said, bro, you don't want it. I said, well, I do want it. He said, if you did want it, the food I'm eating you wouldn't consider it boring. You would consider it part of the process to achieve this outcome. You would have that discipline. And he said that my feelings was hurt for a minute, but man, he was right. We think discipline is correction on the back end. Sometimes discipline is correction in the midst of. Sometimes discipline is the guardrails required to achieve an outcome, to push to success. That's the discipline. So we view it through that lens, not necessarily the problematic discipline that some of us, and I'll be real from a mental health standpoint, there are a lot of us who received discipline growing up that wasn't discipline. I will always say that I never received the whooping or correction or discipline from my parents when they were pissed off or upset. Anytime they corrected me, it was from a place where they were sober minded and were like, this needs to happen because of this. Or if they approached me with a no, or to apply those guardrails, or to set a standard, it wasn't them doing it out of anger. It was them doing it out of long term, bro. Here's what's going to happen. So, yeah, I thought about what he said and I thought about that. And that's the approach that we should take as fathers, as men, as leaders with discipline. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Recently was having a conversation with my kids, and it was before I was going into their parent teacher conferences. And I told each and every one of them, hey, look, so here's the deal. I'm going to your parent teacher conferences. I already have regular touch points with all of your teachers. They call me, they text me, they email me. What I want to know from you all, hey man, there ain't gonna be no surprises, right? And I slowed the car down. I looked back and said, there ain't gonna be no surprise, right? No, no. Are you sure? Anything I need to know that maybe your teacher hasn't told me because they're waiting for the day. Yeah, dad, so it's this and that. Dad, so it's this and that. Yeah, dad, I'm doing this and that. And the three who were with me, my second oldest, my only son, and my second youngest, they were honest. And I knew most of the things, but I appreciated their honesty for them being like, well, I don't want you to find out, I'd rather you tell me. And my second oldest daughter goes, so, we're doing bad, what's gonna happen? I said, what do you mean? She said, well, yeah, so what's gonna happen? I said, there's not anything that's gonna happen. Like you all are cognizant and aware that you need to do better. I said, I'm not gonna punish you because you're not doing your best, because the discipline is already there. Like they didn't even realize in it that the discipline is already there, because they're thinking, oh man, dad isn't going to be happy. No, 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 of course I'm not happy because you could be doing better. But the fact that you recognize you could be doing better, we're off to a pretty good start here. There's some level of discipline, there's some level of standard in there. And even in that, like the I constantly say, the thing that I want my children to have outside of discipline and understanding and awareness is resiliency. That's a tool that so many of us don't recognize. Like a lot of our children are ill-equipped because we lack discipline, because we lack putting a standard in place. I've watched people whose kids absolutely fold under pressure. And I know people, it gets a little tough. It's hard. Like your kid is 7, bro. It's gonna be rough. They're trying to figure it out. And I get that. But I've watched people who I know, people I'm close with, relatives, loved ones. Like they've got almost full grown adults. I've watched full grown adults, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who still their parents never quite gave them enough discipline. Again, we're not talking about the correction. We're talking about the discipline my homeboy was saying. The concepts and ideals to get a certain outcome, and to achieve that outcome, setting a particular standard, waking up early, eating this, running this many push-ups, whatever it may be, study time, all of reading, all of that, that's discipline. So in those concepts of discipline. I look at these adults who I know, and I understand their parents never disciplined them that way. They might have whooped them, they might have corrected them, but what was the correction? What was the follow up to the correction? Like, did you really establish a standard that they could follow to achieve and be better? And I'm watching people in their 30s and 40s, times get hard, and they something in them triggers to go, man, this sucks, it's too hard, I'm just gonna quit. Resiliency, you lack it. And they lack it. And it's crazy again because these are grown, you don't hear me say grown adults, but these are grown adults. These are people with children and grandchildren who things get tough, and instead of trying to push through, recognizing maybe, man, I could make it, they don't. They just shut down. And I look at them and I go, man, you're 33. Man, you're almost 40. Man, you're 52. Man, you're 18. Man, you're 17. Man, you're 15. And in it, you can see they lack that resiliency. Why? Because normally the common thread is when it got hard, the people around them themselves lacked the discipline to push them forward. That's my challenge for you all for listening to this as I begin to close. That's my challenge to you. Everybody's kid lacks a little bit of resiliency. I know right now mine are going through a season of school, and we're going into Christmas time, and I'm getting phone calls from family and people asking, what are you going to do for the kids? And it's Christmas time, and it's Christmas time. And in all reality, my kids are probably getting a lot of books and reading and learning tools. Those are the things my mom used to get us. And I'm not saying it just because it's hereditary, but I'm saying it because these are the things that they need right now. Like I look at my kids and I go, none of you needs a cell phone. Not one of my children needs a cell phone. Not one of my children needs needs the newest pair of whatevers. Not one of my kids needs to be worried about drip. All of my children at this point need to understand, yo, you really need to be focused on your academics. You need to be focused on the discipline of waking up, being on time, completing things, developing resiliency. That's where I am as a father with them. And in this moment, that discipline don't seem pleasant. In this moment, that hey, I'm really going to get you these books. In this moment, hey, I think this game will help you with your math. In this moment, hey, I really think this is a tool that'll help you grow your reading comprehension. In this moment, the discipline seems unpleasant, but just wait on it. Like they don't like it now. But as I said, at almost 40 years old, I look back and I go, yo, I'm so appreciative that I got that no, that I got this yes. So that's my challenge to you. Ask yourself, what is the discipline you're applying? Are you only applying on the back end when something happens? Or did you not provide the other form of discipline, the dedication, the focus, the locking in? Did you not provide that? Are you helping them develop resiliency when it gets tough? I challenge you to ask yourself, do you do that with your question? And then do some self assessing and ask yourself, do I have discipline? When my kids fall short, when they're discouraged, how do I respond? Yeah, sure, we know what to do when they're tantrums and acting out in public. Yeah, we get that. But what do you do behind the scenes? What do you do when it's not that? How are you handling their setbacks, their failures, their shortcomings? What do you do then? That's the discipline we need to fall in love with. We say spare the rod, spoil the child. And we made the rod only physical. And the rod isn't just physical. The rod is mental. The rod is spiritual. The rod is emotional. The rod is educational. The rod is financial. So, what rod are you sparing your kids? Are you providing and giving them the physical rod? Are you giving out whoopings, but you're not giving out conversations? Are you handing out spankings and getting loud with them, but not taking the time to be quiet with them to listen? What's the rod? So, I challenge you for real. Are you leading your children with proper discipline both ways? Or are you helping them develop resiliency? And ask yourself, do you even have the discipline in yourself to properly discipline them? Let love lead this week, man. Do some self-assessment. And before you take any actions, pause and speak to the God. Speak to the Lord, seek his face. Even for my non-believers, take a moment to just sit, wait for his voice. Because he's still going to speak. And remember, discipline isn't a bad thing. It's required in the long term. Again, almost 40 years old. Your kids might not like it now, but at nearly 40 years old, I didn't like it then, but I like the opportunities I've been blessed with. And I'm thankful for every meal my parents gave me. I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening, man. I appreciate y'all as always. God bless and be well.